justice! No peace! No justice!
Players Coalition was a response to things that were happening in our society.
Stop police brutality! Stop police brutality! Stop police brutality! Stop! Don't shoot!
You know, obviously Colin Kaepernick kind of sparked the conversation and put things to the forefront, but we collectively as a group of players wanted to do something actionable, and Players Coalition was the formation of that. My father was a law enforcement officer for 35 years. My mother, a social activist in her own right, was always a pillar of the community, worked at the Salvation Army. It's in my blood. What's up? It's Doug Baldwin, one of the greatest receivers you've ever seen.
Baldwin makes the catch, Doug Baldwin. He is money.
So I'm a task member, which basically means that we evaluate opportunities in the community, specifically where we're at, but also in a more broader context, and looking at ways that we can plug in to either get policy changed, spark conversation to then enact conversations around policy, and then bring to light issues that are going on in our communities.
You know, it's the way that we police our citizens. It's the way that we deal with the war on drugs. It's the way that we treat our kids in the school system.
When we look at the system, the police are the front line.
The typical question I get is, why do you care so much? Why do you get involved? What motivated you? What inspired you to have these conversations, to put yourself out there? And my answer to you and to the people who ask me that is, why not? If you were building a football team, wisdom would tell you to build from the trenches out. To me, that means start locally, start at home, start where you're at. Welcome to the Family First Community Center. Culture, I think y'all know this, championship winning culture. It's the most important thing, an element to what we're trying to build here. The heart of this facility is very reminiscent of the Salvation Army that I grew up in back in Pensacola, Florida. So in the back end of our Salvation Army, we had a basketball gym. Now, it wasn't a state-of-the-art facility like this, but it was our second home. And more so than anything, the culture is what was important to me and what resonated with me to want to build this place. This is the Victoria and Junius Bowling Gymnasium. Now those names are important because those are actually my grandparents' name. And so this is a space where we do a whole bunch of programming. The kids come in here after school, they hang out, they play basketball, play volleyball. Our elders in the morning, they play pickleball. We have a good time in here. And we're looking forward to serving our community through all of these spaces and continuing to build that culture that I'm talking about, a championship winning culture. We're on school district land. We have a partnership with the city. We're bringing in a whole bunch of partners from the community that have been doing programming here for decades, just giving them a space to do more of that work. And so that's why we have the health clinic, right? That's why we partner with the school district to put in the maker space. This is a collaborative effort. The NFL has a rich history of players being activists and utilizing the platform that we get on this national stage to talk about things that are happening in the communities that we come from, right? And not pigeonhole ourselves into, just running a specific route or making a specific read or making that tackle. For good or for bad, players in the NFL are looked at as superheroes. We're more than just athletes. And we're looked at as folks who have some answers. And the cliche saying is, with great power comes great responsibility. And, it's important for us to take that responsibility seriously.
What we talked about in the breakout session before this one was how intentional the system is set up at this point in time. We can't really talk about our justice system without the context of the racial bias that has always existed and still exists today.
It's important for us to zoom out and realize that we're human beings on this planet. We're parents, right? We're fathers, we're brothers, we're cousins, we're husbands. We have a role to play in the betterment of our society. As players who have a platform, who have come from these environments, come from these experiences, can then shed light on what's happening and then also effectuate change by, to be honest, putting pressure on policymakers, putting pressure on the general public to have these conversations and to vote effectively. We've been all over the country. To give you specific examples, we supported the Massachusetts Student Opportunity Act, which infused $1.4 billion into Massachusetts public schools.
That's how we've been educating ourselves, sitting down with grassroots organizations, learning about what they go through, being able to also support them, and that's our plan.
Shout out to Devin and Jason McCourty and Deron Harmon and Slate, the great Matthew Slater. You know, they were key stakeholders in pushing that through. In Philadelphia, Malcolm Jenkins, Torrey Smith, Chris Long, they supported the Clean Slate Act.
That will automatically clear the record for anybody who's had a nonviolent misdemeanor and hadn't reoffended in 10 years. That's significant because 1 in 3 Americans over the age of 18 has some kind of arrest or criminal record.
Anquan, back in his hometown, effectively opened up early registration for folks to vote, increasing equity in voting in Pahokee.
We're starting to see results of that, and that's what we're here to do, to put pressure on elected officials, to give those that don't have a voice, we're here to give them a voice. We're here to not only speak for them, but speak for ourselves as well, because we're affected by the things that go on in the communities. So, you know, we're trying to use our voice for a positive and to bring about change.
I've been blessed with an opportunity to work on the Pardons and Clemency Board here in the state of Washington. I supported I-940, which effectively reinvested into our law enforcement just to help them get the training that they need to be more effective out in the community. My father, law enforcement officer in the South, he had a vast experience that I was able to pull from when we were having these conversations. He got it from both ends being a law enforcement officer, right? You know, the folks who didn't look like him, didn't want him to be a part of the good old boy system, and then his own community looked at him as like, you with them. And so he shared that with me. And so it was important for me when we were having these conversations that I wasn't shying away from having the conversations with law enforcement officers. You know, we've done over 153 events, whether it's community forums, meeting with politicians. We've infused over $9 million of investment into our community. The Players Coalition is not always out in the public, not always out in the news, but we're making a difference in people's lives. The national outrage was kind of the spark that got us, you know, the attention, the money, the backing to push this effort, but the effort doesn't stop. Players Coalition is active. So we're out on the ground recruiting now, right? Getting players that are the next generation that are gonna be coming up and having these conversations, that are gonna be pushing the policymakers and the decision makers to do the right thing by the people in the future. Let's not be naive, we got fights that are coming. The change that we're trying to make and the adjustments that we're pushing for advocacy, for policy, we're not gonna measure it. We know the impact, and my grandchildren will benefit from it.